any Americans, I can't really see who's on the screen here, but it is pure shite. So this is our opportunity to kind of revisit home, check a few boxes, and just get together with a bunch of Scots. So it's certainly been an exciting journey for all of us. What we're going to do today, we're going to have, as our usual, 3 different interviewers with James. Just going to give you a quick introduction to them because we've kind of bypassed that piece a little bit. We don't necessarily take time to do some introductions. Today we've got Richard Foy. Richard Foy is a club director at SSA in Atlanta, Georgia. He's also a former Motherwell casual / ultra, diehard Motherwell fan from Lanarkshire. Richard's going to talk to James just about his Motherwell career in the early days. Obviously, we're moving on to the legendary Ian King, former head of sport for the Scottish Sun, now the director of coaching at North Toronto Nitros, and obviously an all-round East Kilbride legend. So King is going to talk through the playing career. And then last but not least, Johnny Burns. Johnny's the director of coaching at Florida Celtic Soccer Club, also the son of the late and legendary Tommy Burns. We always put Johnny on last because he's always got a 12:30 tea time in Florida on a Friday. So if we put him on last, we know he kind of keeps on track and keeps it on schedule. Not to disappoint, I know he's got a 12:30 tea time today. So that's our roundup for today. I'll finish up with a few thanks at the end, but I'm going to pass you over to Rico in just a second. But I just want to, don't you introduce James. James, how are you doing today?
Very well, thanks. Yourself?
I'm doing absolutely brilliant. I know I'm guessing you're sitting at home just now, James, are you?
Most days I'm sitting at home, just waiting for the kids to come in from school.
Yeah, and just to get started, James, I know you're on your pro licence just now. How's it going?
Different. I think normally you go on a coaching course, you meet up with everybody, you get on the grass, you do your coaching, you get to meet the guys that are on the course with you. But at the minute, everything's done through Zoom. There's been some great speakers on. Jesse Marsh in particular, I thought he was absolutely brilliant. And it's different. You know, you're just watching guys on Zoom. You need to put up your notes and do your assignments. But I'm enjoying it. It's certainly different and something I have to do. You know, I've had my A licence for a couple of years now, and the next step's to go and get my pro licence and try and learn as much as possible. But it's tough. There's a lot of hours, a lot of writing, especially on a computer. It's not one of my strong points, but from that point of view, the improvement that I've made in the last, couple of months has been great. So learning new things all the time, getting to meet new people and getting to hear about different people's ideas on the game and trying to take as much as possible from it.
Can you give us a quick snapshot, a quick insight of some of the content, James, on the course, and even some of the people in your group?
Yeah, the contents at the minute, it's just the pro license is more about management and leadership. So we've had quite a few, leadership presentations. We've had, going to the performance side, sports science and stuff like that. But it's more about, trying to find yourself. What is it you want to be? Do you want to be a head coach, a manager? If you want to do that, these are, things that you need to think about. So, having been in the game as a player, you've got an idea of, your role in the team, and you've got loads of instruction in terms of from the management, the coaching side, your players when you're on the game. So you know that, but then you need to go into the other side and try and think for yourself as well. And if you want to be a head coach or a manager, you need to make these decisions, and you need to put the right team in place to give you the best chance to succeed. So you're learning a lot. The experience I've had in coaching, things have popped up because I've worked under hugely experienced managers in Mark McGee and Alec McLeish. So they're always trying to, teach you little things along the way. They're acting, although you're working to a system, they're acting like a mentor to say, right, this scenario, this is my thinking, and try and break that process down. So that's been invaluable, and it's really just, been heightened by being on the pro license, listen to guys speak, and put their ideas across and tell you what you need to look for. As I said, one of the best speaker I've seen by a mile at the minute is Jesse Marsh. He's been absolutely brilliant. I think a lot of football at the minute is overcomplicated. You know, in terms of the drills need to be absolutely spot on. The players need to be given every kind of instruction possible. But Jesse Marsh was about finding the team, getting the identity of the club, getting to know the environment you're working in, and trying to get the best out of it. He spoke at length about how they identify the players and what age and the profile they're looking for, how long they want them at the club, and they know they want to sell them. He was absolutely fantastic. Really, really impressed by him. And some of the guys on the course, Neil Collins, who you'll know, coaching over at Tampa Bay. We've got Kenny Miller, Scott McDonald, Sean Maloney's on it, who's coaching with Belgium national team. Try to think of who else is on it. Dan O'Day, who I think played for Toronto. Is that right? Played over in the States. So there's a good mix of guys on it. But we're all trying to learn. You know, we do have opinions, we do have ideas, but you're all trying to learn, and you can learn not only for the guys that are speaking, but the guys on the course as well, their ideas, their viewpoint on things, and it's been really good so far. It's a long 2 years, I have to say that. You know, I've only been doing it for about 4 months, and it feels like it's been forever. So when I'm finally finished it in 2 years' time, I'll be glad to get out of the way. But as I said, I'm just trying to learn as much as I can. Sometimes it's just to reinforce the ideas that I already have. You know, it's things come up and you think, well, not that I knew it and I know everything, but it's just kind of, well, I was aware of that, and it's a reminder to say, don't forget about it. So it's been absolutely brilliant so far, apart from all the assignments and all the coursework, but it has to be done. You need to show that you're taking it in and you've got an understanding of what's going on.
And I think just from that part, James, and I'll roll you on to Rico in just a second, is, you know, you and I have been talking a lot lately in recent months about your next step in your journey. You certainly have ambitions to manage and coach and wherever that may be. You know, I think the $1 million question is, where would James McFadden like to be in 3 years' time, say?
Well, I want an opportunity. I want to go and be a manager. I've worked under two highly experienced managers. And I've seen how it's done. It's not to say that because I've worked under two really experienced guys, I know everything. I certainly don't. And when I get the opportunity, I will make mistakes, but I'm willing to work hard to learn from that and try and become the best I can be. So I know, I'm clear in my mind now that I want to be a head coach or a manager, whatever the role is or how it's defined. I'd love to go over to the States. I tried to go over when I was playing. Because I just think you could see the growth, you could see where the game was going, and I just think the opportunities, you know, are endless when you go over there. Kingy will tell you when I speak to him later that, you know, when you're in Scotland, it's tiny. You know, everybody knows that listening. It's really small, and a lot of the time, you know, there's not a lot of jobs coming up. You know, David Hopkins just resigned from Morton because to save money. You know, he's a legend at that club, and he's walked away to save the club money. So the money is kind of, there's not a lot of money in Scottish football, but the opportunities are becoming less and less. And I just think, you are speaking about it, the lifestyle, and I've got 4 young kids, so it'd be great for them to go and experience something different. I've always been up for a challenge and up for new experiences. I lived in England for 10 years, and I'm back home in Scotland now, but I'd love to go and get coaching or managing in America at some point.
And even you and I, in the last couple of weeks, there are some USL opportunities popping up that you and I have talked about, and something, you know, what a fantastic opportunity that would be for somebody of your stature and where you are in your journey just now when you look at, you know, the potential of USL clubs and jobs like that for yourself. But anyway, I'm just throwing that out there for a wee shout out for yourself, James. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass you on to Rico just now. Rico's our Motherwell diehard, and he's excited to dig into a wee part of your journey, James. So thank you for that intro, and I'll pass you over to our resident Motherwell casual.
Thanks, Eric. How's it going, James? You good?
I'm all right, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So just going right back to the very start, really, how I just want you to kind of talk us through your Motherwell Academy experience. What kind of coaches had a positive influence, or even players had a positive influence on you growing up and being around the club, and how did that development within the academy kind of set you up for the career you had?
Well, First of all, it was a long time ago, and it was before Motherwell had an academy. So I think they were just starting out. I was maybe 12, and Stuart Ogilvie was, I think he was running a boys' club at the time. Motherwell would ask him to come in and take an under-12s team. I'm sure it was under-12s. I was running about 12, and Stuart had played against his teams before, and he invited me in for a bit of training. And it was just, play with a boys' club, go training a Tuesday or a Thursday night or both. Just in the stand, under the stand, the south stand at Fir Park, on the concrete. But that was my first taste of it. And then when I was about 13, 14, they decided they were going to set a team up to actually play in a league. And I never played much, to be honest. So I left Motherwell and went back to boys' club because I wasn't enjoying it. And then I was playing for my boys' club, and I ended up signing an S form for Hearts, would you believe? And I didn't enjoy that either. So again, went back to my boys' club, and there was a guy that was at Motherwell at the time, Paul Smith, who I'd kept in touch with because he always, as soon as he saw me, he always liked, what I was about as a person as well as a player. So I kept in touch with him, and then I went back to Motherwell when I was 15. Paul Smith took me back to Motherwell, and then I just signed. I signed as a professional, a YTS at 16, straight from school. So it was unconventional because I was like this throughout my career. I loved playing football, and I loved the training, every day in training, absolutely brilliant. I love going and giving my best and having, getting as much as I could out of it. But if you're doing all that, playing a game at the weekend, it was pointless for me. So I just felt as though I had to make big decisions to leave, a professional club and go back to boys' club, because I knew that was the best thing for me. I had to go and play, and I had to play football and go and, continue to love the game. So it worked out in the end because Motherwell offered me a YTS. I had a few other options at that point. But Motherwell were the first to show an interest, and as I said, I've got a huge connection with Motherwell. I was there from 12 years old, and it was just, as soon as I went in and they offered me the 2-year YTS, I knew that's where I wanted to be. I had interest from teams in England, but I wasn't ready at that point to go into England, so I took the offer from Motherwell, and it was absolutely the right thing for me to do.
You hear a lot of players that reach the top having that adversity. Do you think that was part of what made you have such a career, because of that adversity that you faced as a young player?
Yeah, I think back then, most young players were told what they weren't good at, and you were almost beat with it. It was like a stick to beat you with. Where I played in the wing, I was never quick. I was never the quickest, so I was always told you need to get faster. I love to dribble. That was my default mode. Pick the ball up, run, try and beat whoever's in front of you. It doesn't matter. I don't think there's 5 guys in front of me, I'll never get past them. I just used to think I'll get past them. And if I lost it, I'd go again. If I lost it, I'd go again. Eventually I would get past them. So I was always told, you're not quick enough, you're not tall enough, you don't pass it. And I just kept going because I had that drive to say, well, I want to do what I enjoy. Probably it worked out in the end, but now my little boy's 14, and I watch the academy coaches coaching, and you can understand, there is frustration, but at the same time, what they were trying to instill into me, the coaching I would say advice, but the criticism that I was getting, I didn't really understand it, if I'm being honest. I just thought, well, why am I here? I always say it, why am I here? Let me do what I'm good at. But, you have to find that balance. And yeah, it absolutely drove me on. People tell me I'm not good enough, I'm never going to make it. I remember John Park was at Motherwell when I first came to the club. And he was one that says to me, you're not quick enough. You need to get quicker. And I was like, well, how do I get quicker? And this was way back before you could go online and look at, drills to improve or even knowledge. And somebody to go with knowledge to say, right, you need to improve your strength. You need to improve your explosive power. And you'll never be lightning quick, but you'll get stronger and quicker as you go. I never had that. I tried it. I tried to find it because I felt as though myself, if I was quicker, it would be easier for me because I could always beat players. It wasn't getting past the players; it was staying past them that was a problem, especially.
James, I don't know if the volume's working there, mate. It might be your AirPods. Johnny Brown, have you got the same issue? Can you hear? James, do you want to just take the AirPods out? You could be totally fine without them, I think.
I think he's just frozen, isn't he? I think.
Oh, is it frozen?
I think so.
Is he using Craig Brown's Wi-Fi?
Somebody needs to teach me my Wi-Fi.
Oh, there's Craig. I didn't even know you were there, Craig.
Well, I'm here, yes, thank you, eventually.
I was just giving you a hard time and I didn't know you were in the corner.
Well, I've only just picked up what James is saying. I'm thoroughly enjoying listening to James McFadden, I can tell you.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thanks for joining us, Craig. We're certainly going to have you on in a wee minute here once we can wind up James's America Online dial-up. I don't know if we've lost them altogether.
I think so.
Do you think we've lost them, Johnny?
Yeah, I think
Good
so.
day for you, that's it.
Ah, here he is. He's back.
Oh, is he back on? Sorry about this, guys. We'll crank it up. And oh, there's James back.
Sorry, guys, my computer is absolutely knackered. It's just cut out. You hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you now, mate. That's great. And we've got a wee special guest who's going to say a few words in just a minute, Mr. Craig Brown. I'd asked him to join us today as well. So Craig's just came and joined us. So we're ready for that in just a minute too, James.
Right, no problem. We'll just carry on.
Aye, please carry on. Please.
The thing I remember was being told I wasn't quick enough and things I had to work on. And when I left, I left Motherwell because they brought in a guy that was lightning quick on the wing. He played in front of me all the time, and I never really got a chance. So I left to go back Boys Club. And then when I was at Boys Club, the guy I was speaking about, Paul Smith, had asked me to come back. He'd spoken to John Park about me coming back, and he says, no, he's not good enough for us. So thankfully, John left and went to Hibs, and he's had a fantastic career as a scout, going on to Celtic and bringing through some brilliant players. But when John left, I managed to go back, and the rest is history, as they say.
So when you broke into the squad around about 2000, 2001, obviously that was at a time when the club was experiencing like financial difficulty and stuff. The club went into administration like the following year, which allowed yourself, Keith Lasley, Stevie Pearson, Willie Kinnebra, all the young players from that young team to be given first team opportunities. How big was that for your development, and how was it, all of you boys, moving from that into a first team environment? What was the pressure like for you guys?
Well, there was no pressure, and because we were all we had, you must have, David Clarkson, Stevie Hamill. Stevie Hamill was already established in the first team at the time, but there was no pressure on us because we were all getting to do what we loved with guys that we were really close with. We were a really close bunch. The club were obviously close to going out of business, and that's a pressure. But even then, you probably at the time you're thinking, "I'll be fine." I'm young, and you don't realise there's older guys in the club that have got mortgages, families to look after. You don't actually realise the consequence of the club being in such a position. But on our point, or our side, we just wanted to play football. We just loved it. We finished bottom, but we had some good times. We beat Celtic, we beat Rangers, we got the semi-final of the Scottish Cup, and all these players came through and got chances when they probably would have got an opportunity, but we wouldn't have got it as an extended run in the team as what we did. And the guys that you've mentioned went on to have fantastic careers as well. So I think it was a great grounding for us, but we were just a big bunch of mates that were playing football and getting paid for it and absolutely having the best time ever.
Yeah, and obviously I think Kingy's going to touch on, you obviously left to go down to England, had a really successful career down there as well. But when you returned in 2012, that was at a time when the club was on an up. Finished third and second in the league. Obviously, Rangers had cheated and they were demoted down. Just looking to see what the guys' reactions were there. But so you came back to a club in the up. Like, what was that like coming back, and what was the contrast in the environment?
Well, the contrast was Clarkey, Hamill, and Laz were all still there, or they were back. So from that point of view, the contrast in terms of on the pitch was night and day. That it was a settled side, very attacking. Stuart McCall was in charge, just wanted you to play with freedom, had real belief in you, had the players playing really well. But in terms of the club, it felt like I'd never been away. As soon as I walked back in, it was the same people in the office, the same, Karen was still there working for the manager, and you've got people in the office, and behind the scenes, the kit man was still there. So from that point of view, not much had changed. The biggest difference was we were winning most weeks, which didn't really happen when I was younger, but it was brilliant to go back. When I left, I always wanted to come back. I've said it, I was at the club from a 12-year-old. I've got a great affinity with the club. My wee boy's a season ticket holder. He got before the pandemic. He was going every week, and he's absolutely muddled daft. I think he's 15 in May, so next year will be the year he goes in with all the nutters in the East Stand. He's looking forward to it. So, no, it was brilliant going back. It was great for me at that time, coming off the back of a serious injury, and I just wanted to give something back to the club. I had offers to go elsewhere, but I just felt as though it was the right time to go back, and it was nice to be, part of a relatively successful side. I don't like talking about success when you've not won anything, but for Motherwell to finish second is absolutely incredible. To go and play in European games as well for the club was absolutely phenomenal and really special for me.
Like you say, unfortunately, we never really won anything during that period. The closest we probably came to feeling that way was the 1-0 win up at Pittodrie. Talk us through that game and then talk us through the bus journey home that Stuart McCall always likes to reference.
The game was one of the worst games you'll ever see in your life, but I think to give a bit of context, leading up to it, I think Aberdeen were 7 points ahead, is that right? 7 points ahead with 3 games left. So we had to win every game, knowing that we have to go to Pittodrie in the last game of the season. And we played Inverness in one of those games in a midweek, and I think they hit the post late on, and we just felt, as I said, Stuart McCall created a brilliant environment at the club. The training was great, and when you went into games, you would have your preparation and you know your roles, but sometimes you'd come in and say, I'll give an example. We played Celtic one day, and it was James Forrest and Chris Commons were in the team, and sometimes James Forrest played in the middle and Chris Commons played off the right, and he gave you 2 scenarios. It says if Forrest plays off the right, Chris Commons plays off the right, we'll just stay as we are, and we'll just keep the formation. He says, but if he plays in number 10 behind the striker, or I think they had 2 strikers at the time, but plays in the hole, we'll go man for man, and just you match your man, and we'll give him a game. And I think we won the game 3-1. So it was that, yes, you've got a preparation, but Stuart came in and he kind of went, right, go man for man, I believe in you. Just do your best, stick to your man, do your jobs, and gave you that belief to go and, he empowered the players to go and perform. And it was a great performance. So that kind of epitomised the spirit in the team at that time. And getting up to Aberdeen, I was on the bench. I was out of form. And the game was absolutely terrible. It was a terrible, terrible game. It was destined for a 0-0, and Aberdeen were going to finish second. So we got a free kick late on, and it was in Aberdeen. It was in our half, sorry. It was about 10 yards in our half, and I see Keith Lasley running over, and Laz is great energy, a great leader, fly into tackles, take the ball, never shuts responsibility. But he could never kick the ball that length. And I'm like, no, come on, we need to get the goalie to hit it, or Stevie Hamill, somebody that can actually reach. So Laz threw the ball about 15 yards further on. And even then, he was in the Aberdeen half, and it still bounced on the 18-yard line. But the ball, John Sutton elbowed Jamie Langfield. It should have been a foul. Then it came to the line. Fraser Kerr should have scored. It bounced back to Craig Reid, and he smashed it in. And the scenes were incredible, because we knew then that was it. We knew we'd won the game. Aberdeen weren't coming back into it. And being part, I said earlier about relative success for Motherwell, for us at that time, to have to win your last 3 games to have any chance, to have to go to Aberdeen, who you're competing for second place. Let's be fair, Celtic were miles ahead of everybody else, the budget and the players they had at their disposal. So for us to go to Aberdeen and win at Pittodrie, horrible place to play at times, really, really difficult. Their crowd are on top of you, and they were a good side. To go and win that, the feeling after the game was absolutely incredible. It felt like you had won something, because essentially you're playing for second place in Scotland. At that time, you're playing for second place behind Celtic, and to actually get it was incredible for guys like Stevie Hamill, as I said, Keith Lasley, guys that have been there through the bad times, to go and experience something like that, knowing as well, and this is not a huge point, but the winner of that game got an extra 2 weeks rest in the summer. So that's huge when you're trying to recover and prepare for a season, the next season. So we won the game. We get an extra 2 weeks holiday. Everybody's absolutely delighted. We've got a 3.5-hour bus journey back home. Stop off, get the beers, singing the whole way. Just the bus journey. The reason you're asking is because you've heard about it. And anybody that's involved in that day will speak about the game being absolutely terrible. The celebrations after the game and the bus journey, and it was funny because we get the bus journey. We're all drinking beer and having a great time. Get home, going to Glasgow for a night out. Go to the pub, walk into this pub, and the first person that was seen was Johnny Hayes, who was playing for Aberdeen that day. And he just walked up and went, "Yeah, bastards, we've got 2 weeks less holiday because of yous now." So it was absolutely brilliant. And we actually saw Jamie Langfield as well that night. And he's just like, well, what can you do? He had a bit of a sore face, but I don't know how that happened. But it was brilliant, fantastic. What a day.
Excellent. So obviously you came back, left the game, and then came back for a third spell. And then you kind of transitioned into the coaching role, the assistant manager role. What was it like transitioning into that coaching role with players that you'd just been playing with? Was that difficult for you? Did you enjoy that role? What was your thoughts?
I was injured again. I broke my ankle, and I was just kind of trying to get back fit and see where I was. I wasn't even in contract at the club at the time, but I was still training there because obviously they had a duty of care to make sure I was fit. And Mark McGee was looking for an assistant. Stephen Robinson had left to take up the Oldham job, and I hadn't even completed my B licence, and I knew that I wanted to have a go at coaching, but it wasn't at the forefront of my mind. I wasn't thinking, right, I need to look for more opportunity. I think it was just turned 32, 33, and Mark asked me if I wanted to be assistant, and to be honest, I had to think about it because I was still young. I still wanted to keep playing, and I spoke to him. I says, look, I want to keep playing. He says, well, do both. So that's another challenge. But I spoke to Keith Lasley, Stevie Hamill, Steve McManus, the more senior guys that they were further along with their coaching badges than me, and I just wanted to test them to see how they would react to it, and they were obviously delighted. So I just thought, just go for it, and try and be the same person, because yes, I need to go and coach and I need to give instruction, but when I played and as I was getting older, I would always try and help anyway. So there wasn't a great difference. Obviously, I knew when these guys weren't going to be playing, which was difficult, but it's just part of it. It was something that I thought long and hard about, and I'm so glad that I took it, because I would have regretted it forever if I didn't. People try and plan their coaching journey, their pathway. I hear that quite a lot. But you've just got to take the opportunity as it comes, and sometimes you just need to be in the right place at the right time. And that's what it was for me. As I said, Mark McGee, he saw something in me as a person. He'd never seen me coach. He didn't know what it was like as a coach, because I'd never done it. He just saw what I was like as a person and what I could add to him and to the team. So the fact that somebody so well known and well respected in the game asked me to be his assistant was an absolute honour, and it was a privilege to work under him. What a fantastic guy. It didn't end well for him at Motherwell. A brilliant guy, great mentor. Absolutely, the way that the perception of Mark McGee is the one that he gives off is totally different to Mark as a person. He's a brilliant guy, great guy to work for, and forever grateful that I got the opportunity to work for him. And the guys, when to go back to your question, the guys were so supportive. I could put on the most basic, and this goes for anybody when you're coaching. I could put on the most basic drills, but all you ask for is people to try their best, their absolute best, and if they can put in the effort, they will get rewards from it. They will get benefits from it. And the experienced guys, and it's always the same in the dressing room. You look to the experienced guys to help you out. If you're putting a drill on, a session, whatever it is, just help me. Just try your best. Just do it right. If you do it right, the rest will follow. And that's what happened. They were absolutely brilliant. Great guys. It was really big help to me, because I never went in and thought, right, I'm assistant manager now. I'm going to tell everybody what to do. I was there to help the manager and help the players to try and improve. And that's what I tried to do. But without the attitude and the application of the players, it wouldn't have mattered. I could have been had the best drills and the best sessions in the world. But if the players aren't going to put it in, you'll learn nothing from it. So I got the best out of the players. They gave me everything. And I needed that, because I was young. I was nervous. I didn't sleep for the first couple of days before I went in. I was like, how am I going to do this? Overthinking the training, overthinking the sessions, what you're going to say, how you're going to say it. But then you just kind of relax into it. And as I said, the players, fantastic attitudes to help. And I'm grateful for that. And it was, unexpected timing, but what a fantastic opportunity, and one that I'll cherish forever.
Rico, James, can I just jump in? Rico, can I just jump in for a second? And thanks for that, Rico and James. We've got Craig Brown joining us here, and delighted that Craig could join us. I'd asked him to come and join us and say a few words about two things. Number one, about James McFadden and his experiences, obviously, with James. And number two, a little bit about the North American Scottish Coaches Association and Craig's involvement and what he's, been involved in over the last few months as well. So, Craig, first of all, most importantly, it's great to see that you're doing well. I know you had some surgery, and seems as if your recovery and rehab's going well, Craig. I think you might be on mute. Are you on mute, Craig? No, you might be still on mute.
There we are. Unmuted.
Yeah, brilliant.
That better. Sorry. My technology is not too clever, I've got to admit. It's a wee bit like my football coaching. But what I would say, first of all, it's a delight. I've been listening to James, and it's a delight to hear him. I was unlucky that I never, ever had the privilege of having in any of my teams. And I regret that, because he was a wonderful player. And I hear him now talking about football in the radio and in the television, and he's outstanding at that as well. I'm not just saying that because James is there, but you've got the top man with you, and it's a pleasure to be listening to what he's been saying. He had a time at Motherwell there when, I worked for 3 clubs in England and for 3 in Scotland. And Motherwell was the one where there was tragedy. And it was 2 wonderful guys. And I always associate that. And I'm afraid I loved it at Motherwell. Twice I was there. I was there as the assistant manager and I was there as the manager. And the 2 guys I'm talking about are Phil O'Donnell and Davy Cooper. And both these guys, when I think of Motherwell, I think of the tragedy that happened to both of them. Because they were not only outstanding footballers, they were great individuals. They were great people. And you've got another one from Motherwell in the same mould. And if I dare include 1 or 2 others that he's mentioned, and I'm sure James will appreciate that when I went to Motherwell the second time there, to help out for a wee while, I thought Archie Knox and I went when they were, lost a lot of games in a row. And the guys that helped us most have been mentioned by James there just now. Keith Lasley, outstanding on the pitch and off the pitch, and Stevie Hamill. And the other one was Stephen Craig. And these 3 experienced players had been bombed out the team. Now that's something for coaches to maybe appreciate. The previous manager had left them out, and he was determined to have a young side. And to his credit, he had some good young players he brought in, but they were struggling. And it was relatively easy for Archie Knox and for me to come into the team. I think they hadn't won in 7 games or they'd lost some. And we came in and reinstated great guys, Lasley, Hamill and Craig, and put them back in the team and said, look, we need you here. And Motherwell went on a very good run, in fact, get into Europe from, despair. But James wasn't there. He had gone to England to make a fortune down this, That's what happens down here. And he did very, very well down. And I see a photo on my screen here. He's standing beside a guy with the Scottish team called Stuart McMillan. And maybe I should ask James if he can, his experiences of McMillan, I brought him into the Scottish setup really as a sort of player liaison guy. And he was an actor. And of course, everybody loved James McFadden. And I think he knows this. I tried to sign him when I went to Aberdeen. I left Motherwell, went to Aberdeen as a manager, and I was very interested in bringing James as a player up to Aberdeen. And I think, am I right in saying, James, you had relatives in Stonehaven, which I thought would swing it, but we didn't manage to get you for one reason or another. Anyway, I'm rabbiting on here, but great respect for the man you've got there as the main man today, and great respect for his club, the club, his Scottish club, Motherwell Football Club. And I wouldn't have been there twice if I didn't love them. He's boasting there about going up and beating Aberdeen, and rightly so. But the goal should never have stood because the free kick was taken in the wrong place. And I've got to say, when I was at Motherwell, went up and we beat Aberdeen 3-0 at Pittodrie, would you believe? And James was saying how hard it is to win at Pittodrie. But we went up, and Mark McGee was the manager of Aberdeen at the time, and we went up with Motherwell, and we were quite a young team. And with the 3 experienced guys that I was talking about, and we won 3-0 at Pittodrie. And quite soon after that, I went to Aberdeen as the manager there. But that's another story. But anyway,
I think Craig is just brilliant to have you on with us in our last session before Christmas, and it kind of puts the icing on the cake. There's a lot of guys here that are very close to you, as you can see, Colin Miller, Ian King, and many others. But it's just brilliant for you to join us, especially during James's session, and your involvement with us and the time that you've given us in this past year as well, Craig. It's certainly been a joy for you to have been involved. And you've seen some of the sessions with, Alec McLeish, Gordon Strachan, Walter Smith, Shelley Kerr, and just the fact that such fantastic characters and people with great journeys in the game want to give back, and everybody's really reaped the benefit of you and the others, and we're sincerely thankful for that, Craig.
Well, I've been honoured to be asked to come and listen to some of these sessions, and you mentioned them, and even I've got to admit, I thoroughly enjoyed Colin's session, because it was just shortly after I was on, and I thought that was great. And you're right, the names that you've mentioned, I think the initiative that you've shown with your North American Coaches Association is tremendous. And to get James McFadden is a real coup, I know, at the moment, because James is so much in demand in the media just now. in Scotland, that for you to get him on, I think is great credit to you and to your association. And of course to James for coming on. So, I mean, I can't praise him highly enough. And I've got to reluctantly say that about my friend there, Colin, over in Canada. And because he's a real blue nose, and he comes on that screen of yours with the Rangers stadium behind him. So that's the only thing wrong with him. And I'm joking, as he knows.
You know, he always takes great pride in turning up every week with that Ibrox picture over his right shoulder, Craig.
I know, and I'm looking at these jerseys behind you there, these blue ones. I can't quite see them. I need to get the glasses on to have a look and see whether they relate.
I just did that, Craig, just to try and get inside Johnny Burns' head for today.
Sorry?
I just did that to get inside Johnny Burns' head for today, Craig. So he could see those old red and black socks.
Aye, well, I hope James McFadden will give me. He'll not support that team, I'm sure, but I'm hoping he'll agree with what I'm saying about Lasley and Hamill, and I hope he'll agree with me about the two guys that we sadly lost, Phil O'Donnell and Davy Cooper, and these guys were Motherwell through and through, and they were great guys.
Yeah.
And it was lovely to hear
Phenomenal people.
James acknowledging this there.
Brilliant. Thank you, Craig.
Staff like Aldo, the kit man, the second. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for being with us, Craig. It's an absolute pleasure. And delighted to see that you're doing well after your surgery. I'm going to pass you on to Ian King now. Kingy, you're up, mate. I know you've got some few stories that you don't want to share, and you and James have came to an agreement on that, but Hong Kong and a few others, you're not going to go there.
Possibly later on. We'll see how the first bit goes, Eric. Morning, Faddy. How you doing? Good. I was thinking some of the names that Craig mentioned there as Motherwell legends, and I think to go back to following on, I think Rico did a brilliant job there of the Motherwell side of it. When you were leaving Motherwell, my kind of connection at that point was through my best mate from childhood, Rab McKinnon, who was your agent at the time with John Lonergan. And I can remember just so much interest in you then, James, at that point. And Everton was obviously the one that you chose. I'm just thinking back then at that time, what options did you have at that point? Can you remember what other teams were in and where you could have gone?
Before that, Craig obviously tried to sign me at Aberdeen, but when he was a Preston manager, I think he had Billy Davis as his assistant. And Preston, they tried to sign me when they were at Preston before, kind of tried to steal a march, if you like, because I'd burst through. Obviously, Billy gave me my debut. One of the hardest guys ever on me every single day, shouting at me, "You've got to be better, you've got to do this." But the fact that, him and Craig decided to come in and try and buy me was, surprising, I have to say, and an honour again. But I think just because of the style that I had, and I mentioned it with Rico, I just loved. I still do it if I'm fit and I'm able. I just love playing football. I still play now as if I'm a wee boy, because we all love the game. That's what it is. Sometimes you can get sidetracked and maybe forget why you're doing it. And I think when it becomes a job to you, a chore, then you need to reevaluate, because that is not what football is all about. It's about love and passion, and I've always had it. And the way I enjoyed the game, I done it for my enjoyment. I enjoyed running at people, trying different things. Didn't come off, but I was still having a great time. And I think just because, how I get into the team, Eric Black was a manager. Billy Davis was a manager of the left. He gave me my debut. Then Eric Black came in, and we had no players. Eric came in, and it was a clean slate for everybody. I know I'm getting a wee bit back to the Motherwell, but Eric came in, and it was like, right, you've all got a place. There's places available. You need to work hard for it and show me you deserve to be in. So Eric came in, just worked hard and tried to catch his eye. And a couple of sessions, I actually injured my left foot, and I know a lot of people believe this, but I injured my left foot, and I thought I can't actually take time off here, because we've got a new manager. I've got a chance to go and impress. So I couldn't even play a side foot pass with my left foot. So I just used my right foot every day in training. And thankfully I did, because it did get better. Although some people will say that I never used my right, I actually did, but I had to, because I was injured, so I had to make sure I was fine. And Eric put me on in the right wing for a game. I done okay, and then he put me on right wing again, and I scored the winner against Aberdeen again. One of the tough teams to play against, but I scored my first goal against Aberdeen. And anyway, Billy Davis had brought David Kelly into the club. David Kelly was about 36, 37. He was Billy's mate. Eric Black had come in. I think they must have been around about the same age. And there was a game where the two of them had an argument after the game, and in front of everybody. And as a young player, it was like an eye opener. It was really funny, because you seen two guys argue, but at the same time you're a bit waiting for it to kick off. So David Kelly left the club, and we had no strikers. We had no strikers at the club. So I'd played up my whole career as a left wing, centre mid. I'd spells at Motherwell as a left back, right mid. I'd never played as a striker. And Eric Black saw something in me, put me up as a striker. First game, 2 goals. And then the next game I scored, the next game I scored, and the next game I scored. So I scored 5 goals in a month, and that was it. I just kind of exploded onto the scene. I had bit part, up until that point, but then I exploded onto the scene, and I think that's where the interest came, because I was up front. I was unpredictable. I could mix it with the bigger players. I love playing against the big, strong centre halves, because you could go and smash into them, knowing that if they come through you, you're going to get a foul. So I kind of exploded onto the scene, and there was interest, straight away. And as you well know, Kingy, there's a lot of nonsense written in the papers, drummed up by agents, clubs trying to get the fee up. So it's difficult to know what to believe. But the clubs I know for definite, Preston bid for me. Everton tried to take me on loan before they signed me. I thought that I was actually going to go to Germany. I thought that I was all set to go to Bayer Leverkusen. At that time, it was the lead up to them playing in the Champions League final. Bayer Leverkusen had come in, and they'd says, look, it must have been through better votes. Mm-hmm. So they'd come in and says, right, we'll sign you, we'll leave you there for 6 months or a year. You can learn the language, you can, get ready for this move, and then you can come and play in Germany. And then at that point, I thought they just cooled off, but I later found out that John Boyle had asked them for £3 million, which at that time was ridiculous, totally unreasonable, unrealistic. And I'll move on to that story in a minute about another instance. But I thought I was going to Germany. I was looking at Bayer Leverkusen. They're playing the Champions League final. I was like, this is incredible. 2 years ago I was playing up at DL in friendlies against youth teams, and just to beat that stage was unbelievable. And then the summer before I left, Celtic, the whole summer, Celtic were coming in. Martin O'Neill was a manager. Yep, we're doing it. Don't worry, just sit tight. I'm just, fighting with the board, trying to get some money. Don't worry. Came to the 2 days before the transfer window closed, and he phoned and says, can't do it. But I was like, can't do it. It's like, it can't be that much money. But anyway, they wouldn't give him the money. 2 days and 2 days left to go. I thought, right, I'm staying at Motherwell. I just need to settle myself. And then, I think at the start of that year, Everton, David Moyes had says, I think he had £4 million to spend. And he was either going to spend it on one player or 4. And at that point, he wanted to sign Sean Davis from Fulham. So I think he decided, no, I'm going to go Sean Davis. So he went for Sean Davis. I think he failed his medical, so he got to the last day of the window, and he phoned on Sunday and says, look, we're going to do it. We're going to offer, it was 750 grand and add-ons. I think the value was 1.25 million. And I was like, brilliant, I'm going to Everton. I need to find out about Everton. I knew Keith Lasley, massive Evertonian, always going on about Everton. I was like, I better do a bit of research here. So they phoned and says, we're going to put the bid in. Put the bid in, phone says, been rejected. Bearing in mind the club were in administration. and John Boyle was still obviously pulling the strings behind the scenes. So it was a Sunday. So I phoned Terry Butcher and says, "You need to accept this offer. You know, I'm no turning around saying sell me to Hearts, Aberdeen. I'm not saying do that." I says, "But you're denying me an opportunity of a lifetime here. I've come through this club. My biggest aim was to play in the first team. I never dreamt bigger than that. I just thought, get in the first team, play football." He says, "This is Premier League. You need to let me go." And he's like, "It's not up to me. It's the chairman. I'll phone the chairman." And Terry Butcher says, "No, he's not budging." I went, "Give me his number." So I phoned John Boyle, and it was a Sunday. So Craig will vouch for me. It was a wee bit worse for wear, shall we say. So I phoned John Boyle. I says, "Chairman, I don't want to." I says, "Chairman, I'm not being disrespectful here, but you have to accept that offer. It's once in a lifetime opportunity to go and play in the Premier League in England. You have to accept it." And he says, "I'm not accepting that." He says, "I want £3 million for you." And I says, "Where are you getting £3 million from? You know, I come through the youth, you've developed me, I've cost you nothing. There wasn't any other players at that age that was doing what I was doing to compare it to in Scotland. The club was in administration." I says, how can you demand £3 million? You're pricing me out of a move." So he says, "Well, I'll tell you why." He says, "Because my mate's the chairman at Sunderland, and he's just either sold or signed Gavin McCann, and they paid £3 million for him. And he says you're better than him." I says you can't base it on guys moving in England from an English team to another English team. I says, and that's his opinion. You know, you need to let me go. So in the end, the deal get done, and I went down to Everton, and it was just exciting. As I said, I just thought I want to play first. I just want to be a professional, leave school, be a professional. If I can get to play a couple of games, see where it takes me. I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd get to go and play in the Premier League in England, and it became a reality that day, and it was fantastic.
People forget how young you were, James. I think, you know, like 19, 20 years old at that point, going into the English Premiership. And I don't know, Eric obviously knows Davy Moyes really well, and he became someone I knew pretty well myself. And managers have types of players. You wouldn't strike me right away as a Davy Moyes type of player, you know, a Maverick type of player. Is that unfair on Moisey, or is that like you?
I think it is, because you look at probably most recently the impact it had on Marko Arnautovic at West Ham. So, and you look at, you know, my time at Everton, Tommy Gravison, first of all, could not follow instruction at all. Could not, just unable to follow instruction. But give him the ball and he'll play. Mm-hmm. Steven Pienaar, Mikel Arteta. I try to think down the line. Obviously, young Wayne Rooney. So I think that I know where you're coming from by saying not his type of player. And initially when I signed, he says to me, "You're one for the future." And I was like, "Nah." I says, I've not got time for that. I'm here for now. I want to play." He's like, all right, whatever. Just typical Scottish, Glasgow, you know, answer. "I'm here for now." And sure enough, I did, you know, have an impact early on. But on that point about David Moyes, the way that he set his team up, it was a 4-5-1 or a 4-4-1-1 at times, a 4-1-4-1 sometimes. But your wide players, his wide players had to work. They were wide midfielders. They had to work. They had to go forward. They had to get back. And he used to say, and it, you know, sometimes managers and coaches say things that just stick with you. He says, "What I'm asking you to do is inhuman. It's not possible. But you need to be all the way up and all the way back." And he knew you weren't going to do it in terms of to the way he wanted, but you had to try and get there. You had to, the demands that he put on me personally were incredible. Actually, he used to always like play a game in the team, do well. He'd bring you in a Monday morning, show you all your clips and say, "Right, you done this well, you done that well, that was good. Oh, that was good. Look here, that was really good." Right. But, and always said a but, and always finished on, you should have done this, you should have done that. So you're sitting thinking, I'm not sure if I played well anymore. You know, I'm going into the meeting thinking, hey, sitting up, like, yep, I'm ready for this. Can't wait for him to give me a pat in the back. The pat never get a pat in the back. One time he got a pat in the back, when I went back my second spell, and I never got it. I used to, like what you're saying, not his type of player. I used to, nearly every day I'd go, why did they sign me? What, I mean, what is he watched somebody else and thought, I'm getting somebody else here, and I've turned up and he's thought, who's this guy? I used to always think, why is he signing me? But it wasn't until I left, and it's not until you get older that you understand the demands he put on you. It was right, you're doing well, and you're playing an 8 out of 10. Absolutely delighted with that. But can we get more? He always wanted more. Every day in training, every game you played, he always wanted more. He never accepted, just enough. It was, can you do more? And I didn't really understand that. I didn't understand that until I left, because the demands every day, he'd take you for extra shooting, and your touch, your awareness, your passing. Like, we'd practice penalties. If we had a cup game, we'd practice penalties, right? Stand on the halfway line, right? Up you get, walk for the halfway line to the penalty spot, hit your penalty, score, and they go, nah, don't like it. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't like it? I scored. He says, nah, I don't like left footers hitting penalties. Just put a bit more power on it. And I'm like, but that was him. You score a goal, didn't matter. I want better. I want more. I want more. And the demands, fantastic coach, amazing manager. I'm so glad to see him doing well at West Ham. But a lot of the time I used to think, this guy's never going to be happy with me, ever. But those are the demands you need. Those are standards that you set. It used to, what you train. So if you set up training, passing drill into a functional, game or whatever, you just stop it. If it was like a couple of stray passes or the standard had dipped slightly, and you could probably feel it dipped a wee bit, because you can't beat your best every day. You just stop, go home. Everyone go in, get changed, leave this building, go. So boys would try and stay back. He's like, go. If you're not going right, go. Come back tomorrow, better attitude, leave. Don't go for lunch, just get your stuff and go. And we'd be like, what's going on here? But that was him. He would not accept it. If it wasn't bang on every day, go. So the next day, as you could imagine, the standard is a joke, and everybody's flying, doing what they're supposed to be doing. And he just had that incredible knack of getting the best out of players. He tried to make every player better every single day.
That's going to be fantastic for you to take into your coaching career. But thinking back to Everton and Scotsman, and Ray Hall's obviously on the call as well. You're going into the shadow when you go down there, like probably the last notable Scotsman's Big Dunk, who's got the Everton tattoo and is still a legend at the club now. Even like if you looked at the spell when he was manager, which knowing Dunk, as well as you do, must have been terrific to watch Duncan in the sidelines when he managed as caretaker in that spell. Just terrific, like practically you talk about people kicking every ball. I mean, the passion when he was on the sidelines is just fantastic, and he's just a legend there. So no pressure when you went down as another Scotsman after Big Donkey.
No, a few with a wee contingent. I think Walter had brought a few of the Scottish guys down, Big Davy and Gary Naismith, Scott Gemmell. Big Dunk was, just that aura. Everybody, you mentioned Big Dunk, they either go like that or they smile because they've got that instant respect for him. And what I'll say about Big Dunk is he was an unbelievable professional. I don't know what it was like when he was younger, but when I got to Everton, he would train, be in the gym, first in every day in the gym, go his training. After training at the old training ground, there was a pitch up the right hand side. There was one behind the building and a spare bit of grass behind the building. So Big Dunk would just go down every single day, finishing, different types of finishing, just repetition, match-like stuff, but like stuff where the goalies were never saving it, even if they wanted to. but every day. And then he would go in the gym, and he was in an unbelievable shape. He couldn't run the way he did, obviously, when he was younger. He had a lot of injuries and stuff, but an unbelievable professional. Not the most approachable guy initially, but I didn't want to approach him anyway. But brilliant. And see the like, Big Dunk was always, once I'm out, I'm out. I'm leaving this game. I'm moving to Spain. I'm off. I'm not interested. Although he was a brilliant professional, he's like, I'm off. So he went to Spain, come back. Ray will tell you more than me. He went in and just shadowed in the academy and worked his way up. And the stuff that Big Dunk could do, and even just his habits, if he can pass that on, then he's invaluable. And you see, when he was a manager, that team, when he took over, that team had no fight. They had no idea what they were doing. They had nothing about them. But then when he goes in, and I know that happens a lot with managers, they go in and they have an impact, but you go back to basics, 4-4-2, get your two strikers, get the ball forward, and we'll fight, and we'll work. Because if you go and play, people look at systems and say, I'm going to use this system to counter that system because that's the best system. But it doesn't matter if you've got the best system if you've not got players that are willing to work. And sometimes there will be a weakness in that system. It might be that somebody switches off. So it's about the guy beside them recognising, right, you need to be over, top organisation, hard work. So what Dunk went in and says, back to basics. We'll go 4-4-2. We'll get the ball forward. Calvert-Lewin has come on an absolute ton working with Big Dunk. You can see it. I watch the things he does in a game and the stuff that Moisey used to do in training, and it mirrored. And as much as Big Dunk maybe wouldn't like to admit, that has definitely played a part in it, because we were geared towards get the ball to the striker, lay it, get in the box, get it wide, get in the box, get your goals, and obviously played into Big Dunk's strength. But just amazing to see him. As you say, he is Mr. Everton. He's got the tattoo. He loves the club. I spoke to him actually in the first game that he had and he won. I says, "Oh, well done, big man. You must have loved that." He says, "I'm just going to retire. That's me. I can die now. I'm happy." And that that's a big hard man that everybody sees this, wanting to fight, and he's like, "I can die happy now." So that just lets you know about him as a character. Great guy. I'm saying he was difficult to approach, but he was always good with the young ones, always offering advice. Sometimes, if like you were going to do shooting and you just try and sneak in, depending on who you are, they'd go, "Oh, this is ruining it. I'm trying to do work here." Or they would say to people, "You're not allowed. You're not allowed. Go. You can't come train." I'm like, "I'll just stand behind you, big man, get my shots in, then I'll leave you to it." But what a guy! What a guy!
When you Kingy, sorry, can I just jump in a second? We've got Ray Hall here, and I just wanted to ask Ray to say a few words. For those of you, Ray Hall was the Academy Director at Everton for 25 plus years, and Ray's thankfully joining us today. Ray, can you just, first of all, thanks for joining us, Ray, and second of all, can you just say a few words about your experience with James McFadden, with David Moyes and Duncan Ferguson, three of our favourite Scottish people, Ray?
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me on, and how fascinating it was to listen to James. And I'm delighted, because I thought I was the only one that Moisey used to dig out. I didn't see a lot of James because he was obviously at the far side of the training ground. But all as I do know is everybody says the goal he scored against France was the best. I don't think so. Was it the goal against Fulham you scored for us and got goal of the season?
It was. I scored a good one against Fulham, but it was Charlton.
Right.
That's my favourite.
And just going back to somebody mentioned before how young James was when he actually came down. You won Young Player of the Year, didn't you? One year as well.
I think that was by default though, just because I was younger than Ozzy in Hibbo. I think that's why I won it.
Yeah. One of the questions I was going to ask James was, he worked under David Moyes, and any qualities that from him that he would take in his own managerial career. But you've almost answered it, so maybe we can move on. As far as Duncan is concerned, the first day he came into the training ground, I would be watching the coaches work with the young players. And he comes up and lifts me up, and I must have been about 6 foot in the air because I'm not a big guy. He's lifted me up and he said, if I'm the big legend, he said, wee man, you're the wee legend. And I said, whoa, hang on, you've got that wrong. Everybody idolizes the work that you do. And he said, I said, what can we do? He said, I want to work with the under 12s. And, you know, the humility of what he actually said, he could have taken his pick on any age group at all. But all he wanted to do was to learn and start off with the under 12s. So a lovely, I don't know, it's been a delight listening to James because I can see his, you know, the playing side of it. I really didn't get that involved with the first team once they'd actually got into that area. So thanks a lot. And just have me on and listen to this. It's been wonderful. And all as I can say is I hope that James said before that the most important quality that I can take away from the game now is the love of it. And as soon as that changes, I think James said before, you need to revalue. I know it more now. I do more coaching with very young players, my grandson, 7, 8, and it's the love that you can instill in them that's going to take them on and get them, and it'll get them to wherever they want to go. In James' case, it was the top international level, Premier League level. Thank you.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks so much, James. Thanks, Kingy.
No worries, Eric. Cool. Just looking at those 5 years when they ended up, Faddy, at Everton, a lot of injuries in that time. Is that a regret when you look back? But I did look at the goals. You maybe never scored as many goals as you wanted to for Everton, but you scored some bangers, did you know? There was some belters in there. I looked at a highlight reel yesterday, and as Ray said there, one against Fulham, one against Charlton, and I'm going to try and say this right, I think one against Metalist Kharkiv in the UEFA Cup, that was an absolute stormer as well. There's not many tap-ins there when you look back at your Everton goals.
But no, I'll answer the goals. It stayed with me. I had that discipline because if you didn't have the discipline, the work ethic, you know, you'll know more than most in the press and people's opinion of me as I'm a maverick, I'm a luxury player. You're not allowed to be a luxury player in a Davy Moyes team, a Walter Smith team, an Art McLeish team. You're not allowed to be luxury. You have to work hard. You need to know your job, your responsibility, and first of all, you have to do your work for the team. But once I had that, then I had the opportunities to go and, you know, score the goals. The Charlton one is, to the surprise of a lot of Scottish people when they ask me my best goal, my biggest goal and by far my most famous goal was the one against France. But I annoys me that the goalkeeper got a touch there. Yeah. It wasn't perfect. So my best goal that I've ever scored was the goal against Charlton because I'd just come back. I'd been out for 8 weeks, I think, with a broken foot. I'd just come back into the side. It was a day after my birthday. And I'd come on and the ball had broke to me in the edge of the box twice before that from corners, free kicks. One of them I hit, went out for a throw-in. The other one, I think it just trundled into the goalkeeper's hands because I hit them first time. So this is talking about doing stuff about coaching. So what you would say is you'd work on your first time shot and you would work until that's right. So the thought process in the game, as it happens in real time, was don't hit this first time again because you've made an arse of the last two. One of them was that embarrassing that it goes out for a throw-in. You're thinking, how can you hit a shot out for a throw-in? So the next time I thought, take a touch. And it just came perfect for me. Big Bugera came sprinting out towards me and I flicked it over his head and volleyed it in the bottom corner. So that's probably my best goal in terms of technique. And it was a last-minute winner. It helped us get into Europe. And I think it probably did sum up my time at Everton. Injuries, I didn't score a lot of goals, but when I scored, they tended to be good goals. And that was just the way it was. I didn't get a sustained run in the team at any point. But I had an unbelievable experience there. Things that will stay with me. Ray was speaking about it. Stay with me forever. The way that David Moyes set his training up, the way the demands he put on you. These little things are crucial. Because, as I said, if you've got the best players that aren't willing to work hard, it doesn't matter. You won't get the best out of them. So as long as you're willing to put in the work, then you will improve. And I think that's all you can ask. Can we get the best out of you in terms of your attitude and your application? And can we get you to improve? And these are things that will stay with me forever.
The next challenge was Birmingham, and I think it's funny, I stay up to date here with the Scottish Football Podcast, which you're on a lot now as you're in your burgeoning career as a pundit now. And I was listening to it the other night, and I think it was Colley that was on it, trying to accuse you of filling your pockets every time you went to England and stuff like that. And you made a great point where you probably could have stayed at Everton or done something else, but you chose to go to Birmingham again, like you talked about as a kid, simply because you wanted to play and get back to playing week in, week out in a team. And it's Alex McLeish that took you there, another Scottish manager. What's your best memories of the Birmingham spell?
Well, speaking about when I left, Everton wanted to offer me a new contract, and I didn't want to entertain it because I would go to the stage where I was just off the back of scoring the goal against France, and then the next, so we played in the Tuesday, the Wednesday. So the next game was Man United at home on the Saturday, and normally you would think, right, he's on a high, we'll play him or at least get him on. I think I come on with 7 or 8 minutes left of the game to try and get us into it, and I just thought, my time's coming to an end here. I need to go and play. I spoke to the manager. I says, look, I need to leave. And he's like, I don't want you to leave. I want you off. We'll give you a new contract. We'll bring you in line with the higher earners at the club. And I really think you're going to come and do well for me. But you just need to be patient. And I was like, I've been here 4.5 years. My patience has run out. I love Monday to Friday, but I absolutely hate Saturday, Sunday, because you're not involved. The team are win, lose or draw, you just don't feel part of it. You get that touch of you're feeling down, and you're a footballer. You want to play football. You want to get in front of, especially when you've had a taste of it, you want to get in front of the crowds and go and show that you're a good player and show that you can play, in a good, strong side. We were improving a lot, but as soon as Alex McLeish came in, he had different, approach towards myself. He knew what I was good at. He always encouraged me. And I just felt as though he really backed me, and he obviously paid a lot of money for me. And it was just, I wanted to go and play. I knew that when he got that job, do you know what? We were down the bottom of the league. I didn't care. I wasn't bothered about. I didn't think, what happens if we get relegated? I just thought, I want to go and play. I know this manager knows me. I know that he will get the best out of me, and he will play me. Simple. It was simple. I just knew that I would play, and I had to go and play for me as a person, for my my mood, for my mental state. A lot of it's very prevalent now. The mental side of the game. Back then, it's I'm just down, I'll shake it off. But when you play football, yes, you're highly paid, but it's also a high pressure environment, and it's whether you feel included or not in the team and integrated to the team. I had great mates at Everton. As I said, love getting in every day. Come a Saturday, Sunday, if I never played, I was as low as you could get. I just wanted to play. So the thing was, going to Birmingham was to go and play for a manager that I knew, and I knew I would play. And it was a challenge. Can I be the guy? I wanted to be the guy. I wanted to go and be the guy that kept Birmingham up. Unfortunately, as was the story of my career, I get injury after injury. But I had a fantastic time there, and Alex McLeish, he's a great guy. I still speak to him now. Obviously, I worked with him in Scotland. He's absolutely brilliant.
I was going to say, and maybe some of the people have been lucky enough, you and me, to get to know him really well as a person, and there's loads of coaches on the call here. And I think beyond the X's and the O's and the drills and the functions and all that kind of stuff, Alex McLeish is just a brilliant manager of people, isn't he? He's just the way that he knows the switch that might flick a guy, or do you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff, even with the way he would manage press people or media people at that respect. But then when I started coaching, at a low level, he was like really helpful and all that, just in basic things, you know, just super basic stuff like how you manage people, how you might manage a kind of difficult personality in a dressing room and stuff like that. He's brilliant at it.
Anybody coaching now, they go on all these courses, the phrase that they're using is emotional intelligence. And his is so high because he knows the game. He never coached very, very much. He would do bits and bobs, but he was unbelievable with you as a person. Like he'd get to know you. He would get to know about you, what makes you tick. As you say, like the first, one of the stories I always tell, we talk about the demands that David Moyes put on you, and that demand at the start was as well, the sports science was coming in, so it was about your weight and your body fat. And I used to go away in the summer. I wasn't a big drinker, but I like food. I love eating. So
you
in the summer I'd go and eat.
Which
Well, that's it. But I loved eating, so I'd go and eat, and I'd get the weight back down, fucking back to training. But my body fat would be a wee bit high. So David Moyes is like,
what percentage?
You're in the fat club. At the worst I came back was 15%.
That's not bad. Boydie was 22 at Rangers.
Boydies, aye, that wasn't even true. That was higher as well. Don't let him kid you. But he was like, no, you need to get under a certain amount. So a month later, body fat's down to 12%, but my weight's still the same. And he's like, how's your weight still the same? I says, well, I've lost fat and I've put on muscle. No, you need to get your weight down as well. So he was always on at me, and I needed it, to be fair.
Yeah.
I needed it. But then I remember when I went to Birmingham, we were away somewhere in a hotel, and it was pre-match meal time. So it was the manager was in, and I got on brilliant with him. But it doesn't matter who the manager is. The last thing you want to be doing is stuck in a one-on-one with your manager in the meal time. So I just signed, got my body fats and that done, and it was high again for some reason. So, and that's another reason why I didn't want to be next to him. So Big X like, all right, how you doing? And I said, all right, no bad, gaffer. Chatting away. So then he just pinched my stomach with his finger in his thumb. He just went, hey, you're a wee fatty, are you? And just started laughing. And I went, you'll do for me. You'll do for me. And then he just says, like, you'll need to get that down a wee bit, and just had a different approach. But I couldn't stop laughing when he done it. It was absolutely brilliant. I thought, I'm all right here.
I think when you let the one thing about Birmingham, you did a cruciate at Birmingham as well, didn't you? And I think probably missed it and when Barry Ferguson went down and the League Cup win and all that kind of stuff. Which is,
I done my cartilage on my right knee. I done my medial ligament. Was out for, it was when we were in the championship. I was out for 12 weeks with that, and then we'd signed Barry. I played with Barry a bit because I think we signed Barry in the January time maybe. So I played with Barry, and then the season, turned out to be my last season. The club were going on pre-season tour to China because we had Chinese owners, and it was 2 weeks in China, and my wife was due with one of my kids. So I stayed at home. I asked the manager, another thing about the emotional intelligence side of the game, I asked the manager, look, can I stay at home? If I was in Austria or whatever, I could get back. I says, but I'm not going to be able to get back to China. He's like, no problem, just go and work with the young boys, make sure you're fit. And that summer is the fittest I've ever been. Malky Thompson, who you'll know as well, Malky stayed behind. He was the under-21s or reserves manager at the time. So I'd get training with Malky, with the boys, then Malky would take me for some individual stuff. And my diet was absolutely perfect. It's the fittest I've ever been, the leanest I've ever been. So the boys come back, and I was absolutely flying. Started the season well. I felt great. And then to go on the other side, to enhance what I'm talking about with Alton, then I had all the stuff with Craig Levine, call me lazy, and this and that with Scotland. So I went away with Scotland, fell out with Craig Levine, came back, and I was low. I was down because it affected me. I was rubbish that game. I'm not going to say I was good, but the way I handled it was wrong. But I came back, and we were playing Liverpool on the Saturday, and I played well, but I was still a bit, affected by it. So Peter Grant was the assistant, came to me in the match day in the dressing room and says, the manager wants to see you. He hadn't named the team yet. And I went, no, not today. Not today. You cannot drop me today. So I goes in and I'd been playing on the left, and he says, but I always used to moan that I wasn't playing as a striker, I'm playing in behind. So he says, right, listen, you've had a tough week, and I'm not going to play you off the left today. He says, I'm going to play you in behind the striker. Go and get on the ball. Go and let everybody see how good a player you are. Never mind what's happened. Put it behind you. Go on and just show everybody how good you are. And I just, it just gave me that lift that I needed. We went and played Liverpool. We drew 0-0, but I played off played kind of off there, sitting midfielder, and honestly, I was brilliant. I'm normally quite modest, but I had a really good game. Star man in the paper. Then the following week, I done my cruciate training, and that was it. Never recovered. But it was just to get an insight into that, McLeish. He just knew. You're right. He just knew how to get you going. He done it once to me as well. When the year we get promoted, we played our first game in the Premier League was Man United at Old Trafford. So he's pulled me in the Friday, and I did good pre-season. And he pulled me in the Friday, and he goes, he knew I hated playing wide left. He knew I hated it, so he pulled me in and he goes, aye, listen, we're not playing 4-4-2. No, we're playing 4-4-2 tomorrow. But Winker, Andy Watson, he doesn't think you can play in a wide left or a midfield four. And I went, what? I can play wide left in a midfield four. He went, all right, that's who you're playing. See you later. And I was like, oh, no. Because he knew I wanted to play as a striker. Aye, straight in. Right off the top board, straight in. And then I come out and I was just, he's absolutely done me here. I was just laughing. I was just delighted I was playing at Old Trafford. And that's just the way he was. He always dealt with you, whether it was good or bad, and picking at the good stuff. He always dealt with it, and he knew how to get you fired up, and absolutely spot on. So he was.
That psychology 101. That's the next bit. Right? No, there's other parts of the playing career we could touch on, but like loans at Sunderland and Queen of the South when you finished up and stuff like that. But we're going to go on for 3 or 5 hours here. We keep that going, but like I think I'm going to finish up with the Scotland parts, and obviously it started then and. This has went well, so we've got to do the Hong Kong story. So you're a young guy on that tour, just making your way, and Bertie Vokes has called you the cheeky boy. You've got the red stripe in the hair, and you're the next big thing. And obviously, because of Rab and stuff like that, we're fairly like. I think it as a lot of young players have to do, and it's something you're going to have to handle as a manager with young players, how they deal with the media. You have to find somebody, hopefully, that you could trust a little bit, and you trusted a few of us, I think, at that time. And I do remember getting to the airport in Hong Kong. And that tour was bizarre, for one. If you remember the game against Hong Kong, we were literally playing a team of waiters, and we won 4-0. And then there was like...
And I was fuming.
It never counted as a cap. But if you remember some of the
they counted to me.
Played in the team that day in the Hong Kong game, bizarre. And but then there was a famous night out, obviously, in Hong Kong for all of us, not just the players, the press. I think in an area called the Wang Chai, was that right? Wang Chai or something like that, some area in Hong Kong. Anyway, we get to the airport the next morning, and I'm pretty sure Johnny, who's on the call, I'm pretty sure your dad was on that trip, Johnny, is it? I'm certain he was, yeah. Because he came across to me and he says, what's Faddy? I said, how am I meant to know? I said, I don't know where Faddy is. And he's like, and I'm by that point, it's like TV's talking to you, or just kind of, I said, why is he asking me where Faddy is? And then Tommy obviously knew he could trust me to keep it to myself. Obviously, I'll put a rider on that by saying as long as I got the exclusive later. But I was like, he says, he's not here yet. We can't find him. And I said, oh, right, okay. And he said, we thought he might have phoned somebody else. Has he phoned Drab McKinnon, or has he phoned? So I phoned Drab, who obviously at the time, and he said, no phoned me. Where is he? And you remember the big security guy, Big Willie McDougall was wandering about, and he said to me at some point, you seem to be on the misapprehension that James McFadden's going to miss this flight. He's on a different flight. It was alphabetical. He's trying to spin some story that you were actually going to make the flight. And Willie McDougall, and I was like, Willie, I know he's missing the flight. I'm not going to do it. I said, but we'll do a thing at the other side. We'll do a story, if you remember, like, sorry and all of that kind of stuff. And we did a sorry interview after it. But I was just saying, for the boys that are here, what did you feel like when you woke up and realised you were somewhere else and you're going to miss that flight?
Panic, pure panic, because I'd made an arse of it. But I got back. I got there and he says, "Oh, he's waiting for you in his room." So he'd stayed behind. So I chapped the door. He's like, "Oh, thank God you're all right." And I thought, "Oh, I might be all right here. I might get away with it." And then once we got back, I've told this story before as well, but get on the flight, land in London. As agreed, I'll go and do the press. But as I came out through the double doors at London, the place was absolutely ram-packed. I don't know if you remember. It was ram-packed, snappers, press guys. And I went, "Oh my God, man, I play for Motherwell." And all these guys. But it was Roy Keane had left the Ireland squad. So I was like, "Oh, thank God." So I went through with you and Kenny McDonald and done my wee bit. And then I got home, right, and my mum and dad, they were fine. So I was fine. And Johnny's old man, the late great, Tommy, phoned me and he says, "Listen, don't worry about it." He was brilliant. He's another guy. I wish I'd got to work under him at club level. I know I could talk about him for hours and hours, but he'd phone me and he says, "Listen, it's fine. It's fine. Just phone the manager, phone me Betty, and just say I'm sorry. That's all you need to do." And see, if he never, I wouldn't have phoned him because I was young. I was like, still like a wee boy mentality to say, if I hide, he might know. And I just accepted my career was finished with Scotland. I just went, I'm done. I've had one cap, I'm buzzing. That would do me. But Tommy's like, "No, phone him, he'll be fine." So I phoned wee Betty. I says, "Listen, boss, I'm really sorry. I've let you down and I've let my family down. I've let the country down." He says, "Oh, don't worry about it." He says, "I've missed the bus and the train. Everybody misses buses and trains and flights." It says, "Don't worry about it." And I thought, well, fine, I won't. And I'm that type of person. If I'm worried about something, I don't worry quite a lot. But if somebody says, "Don't worry, it's fine," I'll just stop worrying straight away. And they were brilliant. And obviously I got a wee bit of stick. But it's part of your character, isn't it? It's experience, you learn from it. I'm never late for anything now. Don't miss a meeting. Always miles early. Hate being late. Absolutely hate it with a passion. So it's all about learning and using that experience going forward.
Yeah. I think as a Scotland player, you went on to have like almost too short of you should have got one in that Hong Kong when you think about it, because you ended up too short of the Hall of Fame. So 48 caps, 15 goals. And there's a few, I think, some that people, because Paris gets so much of a focus, there's other ones that people forget. Like, like people say it was a great run before the shot in Holland and the Holland goal at Hampden. And people always say, "Oh, it's a deflection and all that." Like, a great goal, right? So that goal, and then obviously think about that one first of all, because that one was like a massive high, wasn't it? Obviously a massive low in the second leg, the Holland one, yeah.
The Holland one was, I was at Everton at the time, but I hadn't long been there. So, sorry, my phone's needing charged as well. I'm having a bit of a nightmare here. The Holland one was weird because I'd moved to Everton. I hadn't played against everybody, but there were still good players. But when you line up against Holland, it's a team of superstars, absolute legends of the game. And you're just 20, Dan Fletcher was 19. We had a good team, good solid team, but we knew we had to work hard and to score. This is when the whole argument for Hampden came up. Should we stay at Hampden? Shall we go? And I was a massive advocate for staying at Hampden because when it's full, people can talk about atmosphere. That's dependent on who's watching it. I've seen a lot of Celtic players coming out and saying, "That's dead, it's not great." It's not dead. It's dead because you're in a game, you know you're going to win. Mm-hmm. So the atmosphere is never as good when you know you're going to win. They like that at home as well. So that day, I'd been brought up, everybody here, the Hampden Roar. What's a Hampden Roar? What's a Hampden Roar? And you're all rhyming slang. And until I played for Scotland, I'd been to games at Hampden as a fan, but until I'd played for Scotland, I had no idea what that was. And the noise, as soon as that whistle goes to kick off, the roar that echoes around the stadium is incredible. And the noise and even you watch back the video, the camera's like shaking because the place goes mental. And that's what I think about. And everybody speaks about the France goal, quite rightly so, great team. But the Holland goal, I was 20. I had not a care in the world. I was living my dream and then some. And to score against, into Van der Sar, you've got your De Boers, Jaap Stam, Overmars, all these guys, and you're like, I'm used to watching these guys playing in major tournaments, and I've just scored a goal that's beat them. The atmosphere was incredible. The feeling, you could see what it meant to everybody. Like, sometimes you score a goal and you go, I knew I was going to do that. Sheer disbelief that I was even there. That was only meant to take the corner and it come back to me. Yeah. And then, obviously, that little interplay with Fletch and everybody. There's not a person, not even the biggest optimist in that stadium could have thought, we'll win this game. There was sheer surprise for everybody. Even the guys on the pitch, you see them all running away, and just an incredible feeling, especially at that stage of my career. It was, just starting and absolutely phenomenal.
I think for people at a certain vintage on the call, it's scored almost in the same spot that Kenny Dalglish scored against Spain. A goal that maybe 20 years before that. Honestly, I just remember that thinking, and I was a teenager then at that game, right behind his foot when he shot, and like your goal in the press box, obviously, but like just unbelievable. But then what happened in the midweek? We get battered 6-0.
6-0. Didn't defend well enough, but just they had all these big stars, and you'll remember there was a huge fallout, and it was like, nah, he's not playing. We're bringing in this new guy, this young boy, 18-year-old, and we're like, yes, 18-year-old. We've beat the best. Of course we're going to beat them. Schneider came in and it was, oh my God, it was an absolute joke. Couldn't get near him. Scored 2 goals in his debut. 6-0 on the clock, 58 minutes gone. I thought, oh my God, this is a long half hour to see it out. And it was, I mean, we can laugh and maybe make a wee joke about it now. It was embarrassing because we'd get way ahead of ourselves. We thought, right, if we get into the group, then we can be the first team to qualify for the group stages, and far too far ahead of ourselves. We thought that was it. And ultimately, I know I'm a forward and I'm not trying to blame the defenders, but we didn't defend properly. That's what it was. As a team, from open play and from set plays, we just didn't defend well enough. But again, experience, put it down to experience. I never thought we'd have to wait, until just recently that we get another playoff. But great experience playing against these guys, and that shows you. You talk about the old saying, hard work beats talent, and talent doesn't work hard. Our hard work beat them on the Saturday, and then their hard work and talent beat us on the Wednesday. So it just shows you when you put it together, sometimes you just need to hold your hands up and say they're better than us. If they work hard enough, they'll beat us.
Yeah. 4 years on, and you score that goal in Paris, which I think is probably it's an iconic moment now, isn't it? Whether you like it or not, it's going to be the moment that, in a lot of ways, will define your career. And it's strange when you've done so many great things at club level. I think you're one of the few players in recent memory that will be defined by what he did at international level. It's probably you'll be more defined what you did for Scotland than what you did for your clubs. Rico might not like that, but I think that's possibly.
For Motherwell, I think Motherwell was a bad time. A good time for me, a bad time for the club for me to come through. But I agree with you. People want to speak about Scotland, and something, I actually quite enjoy it, because I've not had that. I've not played for the old firm, so I'm not associated with either or. And I managed to play well for Scotland. I scored some big goals at big times, and I like it because you know what it's like. The old firm's everything, and that's what you make your opinion on, whether they play for Scotland or not. It doesn't matter. So I've got that kind of it's almost like a niche, because usually there is a player that's played with the old firm or associated with the old firm that's one of the better players for Scotland. So, you know, I look back at that and I enjoy it. I remember when people used to speak and straight after I scored that goal, oh, the best thing, this, that, and I used to say, "Gonna stop talking about it. I'm 24, I think I was at the time." He says, "I've got loads ahead of me. I'm gonna score loads of goals. I'm going to play 100 games easy if I keep fit." And then because as well, although I'm going to contradict myself, it is your job, and I did enjoy it. But you can't dwell. You need to get ready to prepare for the next game. You need to be professional. You need to say, right, part that, it's done. Fantastic, unbelievable team performance. Craig Gordon, Graham Alexander, Davy Weir, guys like that. The defence were absolutely phenomenal. But we need to look forward. We've got games left. We need to qualify. And I did think at the time, and I still look back at it now, I'm so proud of it. But ultimately, we failed.
Yeah.
So it's great. And my thinking was, forget about that game. Forget about that goal. We've got Georgia. We've got Italy. We need to go and beat these teams to have any chance of qualifying. Because see, if we don't, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know we'd have to wait this long. But I just always looked ahead and says, right, what's next? What's next? What's next? But it's great now to look back on. I meet people I don't even know, and they're like, I mind that goal. Or if I'm in England or whatever, you scored that goal, didn't you? And it is fantastic. You get to the point where, you know, some people are like, all I did was score one goal. And I'm like, well, I actually scored 15 for Scotland, which for a guy that didn't play every game, I played wide some of the games, was brilliant. You know, I think I'm in the top 10 all-time goal scorers for Scotland. Absolutely brilliant. I'd take 1 minute of one game for Scotland. So, and that's when you talk about the Hall of Fame and do I look back and regret? Absolutely nothing. Nothing at all. I've got 48 caps for my country. I've got 15 goals. Nobody can take that away from me. And you can always want more. Of course you can. But sometimes you've just got to be proud and happy with what you've got. Don't look at what everybody else has got or what you should have had. You've not got it. So just be realistic and say, I'm happy. I'm content. I'm proud of my achievements. Could have done more. Had a wee bit of luck. But equally, I had a bit of luck to get to the position I was in. So you can't have everything. And I'm just delighted with how it went. The one thing I regret and I'm disappointed is we never got to a major final, because I think the team that we had were good enough to go to a major finals. But we didn't, because we didn't deserve to in the end. So you just have to deal with that.
Yeah. It's a horror group when you look back on it. That group is so difficult, and the Italy game was obviously heartbreaking. But the final one,
Kingy, sorry.
Yep.
Trying to find a charger for my phone.
The final one I'd say is a walking
charger.
McFadden Towers.
No. They're all hiding in the kitchen.
How's the butler, Faddy? He'll get it.
Oh, it's my wife. She's ready to get it. You know me, Springburn boy.
Springburn boy, no butler. Right.
No change.
The final one I'd say is, I have to say, if you're talking about how you're going to speak as a coach, I listened to one of those podcasts recently, the day before the Serbia game, and they should have flew you out to do the pre-match team talk. Honestly, I had I'm sitting in Toronto thinking how I'm going to try and see the game in a lockdown and get. I'm glad you got a charger there. That was good.
I know. Make sure I stay on. I'm still here, by the way.
Good. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get to see the game? And I'm listening to the podcast, and you did a speech on BBC, basically talking to the players. What would you? I think the question, which for Richard Gordon, for Kenny McIntyre, was a change. It was actually quite a good question, and it was like, what would you say to the players? I think basically, what would you say to the players if you were fashioning the team talk? And the 2 minutes that you did, honestly, James, where blowing smoke up your ass was unbelievable. Just pure passion about, you think you're going to get another chance, you might never get another chance, all that kind of stuff. It was fantastic. And for every Scot, I think, that's left, it's 4 years since I've been away, 20 odd years since Eric's been away. You know, we've all left the country and lived somewhere else. You become more patriotic when you leave. And honestly, I'm not kidding. I'm being serious. I was nearly crying listening to it. I was just because I was so desperate for them to win. I was so desperate to find a pub that was still open in lockdown in Toronto that I could watch in. So and I watched it the next day, and when we qualified, I was actually thinking of you, and they did the flashback to the studio of you jumping up and down when Marsh saved the penalty and stuff like that. It was fantastic, and clearly you can't fake that. You know what I mean? You can't fake how much it meant to see them qualify. And has that been the highlight of this year for you? Everything we've gone through in coronavirus and everything, you know, like seeing them qualify must have been my last question to you. How much did it mean to you?
You know, I said it, and I'm not a fake person, and I know anybody could say that, but I'm a Scotland fan, and you're right. I lived in England for 10 years. I had all the things you can say about Scotland being rubbish and about you being a sweaty sock and all that. I had it all, but it just gives you more steel, more pride. Puff your chest out. I wear my Scotland, no my personal ones, because that's a bit embarrassing, but I have a Scotland strip. I wear them when I go on holiday because I'm a Scotland fan. I'm a fan that grew up a Scotland fan, lived the dream and played for Scotland, and I felt the hurt. Everybody's felt the hurt. I wasn't sitting there saying, well, you know, because I was right involved, I feel it more than anybody. I feel the hurt that everybody else feels as fans, the hope and the expectation. You carry that burden as a player, knowing everybody expects, everybody hopes, but expect, and you do get stick along the way because that's your passion. Everybody's passionate about it. But when it came to that point, I just felt, when I look back at failed games, we spoke about Holland. We shouldn't have beat Holland. We shouldn't have beat them. We didn't deserve to win the 2 legs, so we shouldn't have beat them. Nobody gave us a hope. Sometimes you can upset the odds, but nobody gave us a hope. And when you fail, but you've gave your best, sometimes you go, right, well, I've tried my best. What else can I do? I look back at the Georgia game. In Georgia, losing 2-0, they had a 16-year-old in goal, they had a 16-year-old in midfield and a 17-year-old up front. And I don't think the goal had a safety mate. The midfield and the striker looked like world beaters. Never heard of them since. But we lost that game, and that was the game where you go, we should beat Georgia. That's the game where you say, if we get stick, we deserve it. We should be beating Georgia. And knowing that if you win that game, you've qualified. No, the Italy game. The Italy game, I had a great chance. I should have scored. I actually didn't believe that Kenny was going to square it. I thought he was going to shoot, so I stuttered a wee bit. But I don't look back at the Italy game and say, that's where we lost it. I look back at the Georgia game and say, we should beat Georgia. We should be in a better position. So that's why when I said, don't expect that you'll get another chance, because Holland was the last playoff we had. Italy was the last one-off game in terms of if you win that game, you qualify. Apart from that, there's none. And I always remember, as a player, the Holland game, I'm 20. I'm riding the crest of a wave. My career's on the up. Scotland will get better. I'll play at a major tournament. We'll win the group the next time. No, didn't it? Failed. We'll get it next time. Didn't happen. So it was always, don't think you'll get it next time. Do it now. Don't wait for it. Do it now. This is what's turned out the best chance, because Serbia, for all their good players, Scotland were absolutely brilliant. And going back to the point, I went off in a wee bit. I'm a massive Scotland fan. I'm so patriotic. I was overjoyed, honestly. I was getting emotional. You see Ryan Christie, the effect that had, because my big question was, or my biggest worry was that what I've just said, the players don't understand that this might be your only chance. One chance. Then you see Ryan Christie talking, the players got it. You could see that in a performance, but the players got it. And when you see that emotion, that is pure relief and emotion. It's infectious. So I'm having to talk, going, I'm absolutely delighted. David Marshall, what a story he's had as well, having to spend time out, sit behind Craig Gordon and Alan McGregor, 2 fantastic goalkeepers. He turned up, knowing he was third choice, knowing he wasn't going to play. He turned up every single time. For him to make that save was brilliant. And just the world we're living in at the minute, I just knew it would give the whole country a lift. And it has been, honestly, for about 2 weeks, every day I just wake up and smile. I just be like, we've got the Euros. We've got games at Hampden. That was another thing. We've got 2 games at Hampden, guaranteed. We play England at Wembley. If you were picking, right, you need to go and play a decent international team. You need to go and play them away. But see, if you win that game, you get to play 2 group games at Hampden and you get to play England at Wembley. Oh my God, it's a dream scenario. And the fact that we've done it, honestly, proud of everybody, first of all as a fan,
Mhm.
because I'm a massive Scotland fan. Love Scotland. Delighted they're doing well. And people says to me as well, look, you must feel a wee bit because you're not involved. I don't care. It's not like you leave a club and you can maybe breed a bit of bitterness. It's my country.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm grateful for having the opportunity to work as a coach for Scotland. I've 100% backing in Steve Clarke and what he's doing. He's done a fantastic job, and I'll always support them. And that's something you can't take away. That's who you are. That's your identity. And I'll be there in some capacity in the summer with my Scotland top on, singing loud and proud. And honestly, I couldn't have been happier that day. Myself and Dan Fletcher, another guy. Dan Fletcher, 80 caps, third highest cap holder. Never got to play in a major final. I don't think of myself going, I feel sorry for myself. I look at guys like him, the struggles that he went through with his illness and things like that. And for him not to be able to captain, I felt for him, but it's not initially, it's after it. Initially, it's just sheer delight, just sheer happiness and pride. And I actually think we're going to win it. I really do. I'm so confident that we're going to go and win it. We're going to do a Greece. Everybody's going to write us off. We're going to do a Greece. We're going to win it. And then we'll qualify for the World Cup. And we'll maybe not win that, but we'll win the Euros. Definite.
Best way to get it. Faddy, that's been an absolute pleasure. I'll pass you on to Johnny to do the coaching thing. We'll never put this worldwide that you said we're winning the Euros and then maybe the world.
Because it's going to happen.
Thanks, James.
Cheers.
James, how's things, mate?
I'm good, pal. Yeah.
Good, pal. I'm just, I won't take up too much of your time, James, because I'm conscious of the amount of time.
Like your old man, then.
Actually, it was funny, James, because I was speaking to my sister last night, and I said that I was going to be doing this, and she reminded me of the day that we actually met you. It was at Cameron House, and Bertie let the families come up to Cameron House for when there was a double header, and my sister.
Johnny, I think your AirPods have gone off, mate. I think they've gone off.
Golf? Is that him?
I think he's away, isn't he? His tea time's getting close.
I'm shouting 4.
Johnny, you're still on mute, mate. We'll try and lip read.
Sorry, I actually had a couple of drinks last night, so.
That's your first win in how many weeks, Johnny?
Aye, well, exactly. I blame Celtic. Aye, so I remember, James, first time I met you was up at Cameron House. Bertie let the families come up during double headers, and my sister's boyfriend at that time, a mad Celtic fan, and he dressed head to toe in a full Celtic strip. And there's two things I remember about that day: meeting you and Barry Ferguson's face when we got out the motor, because I thought he was going to shit himself when he seen. James, just I want to kind of start off with, you already touched on the Motherwell assistant job and how that came about. Can you tell us, James, with regards to Scotland, you mentioned being a Scotland fan, how much that meant to you. How did the experience, first of all, James, what did you think of it overall, being involved at that level, different from the club game, obviously? What was your initial thoughts on it?
Art McLeish I hadn't spoken to him for a while, and he just messaged me at the boy and says, look, if I get the Scotland job, would you be one of my assistants? And I was like, absolutely, no problem. It wasn't even close to being decided, but he must have obviously had the heads up. And it was, I answered it before I thought about it, because of course I'm never going to say no. But then once I'd already said I'll do it, I was thinking, right, well, these are the best players now. This is going to be, I need to step up here, and I need to make sure I'm ready. How do you prepare for that? You just need to go and approach it, and try your best. And it was absolutely brilliant. Art McLeish I've already spoke about him as a a person in terms of playing point of view. But Art McLeish was living in London. He was watching a lot of local games, going to Fulham and games down there. And he knew that I would just come out of the game and I was doing a bit of media. And he knew that I knew the players. So he had straight away massive trust in my opinion, first of all, and my knowledge. And just, trusted me to go and look at players. And when I suggested things to him, he was extremely open. And it just empowered me. He was absolutely brilliant. We'd meet him about, picking the squad, go and scout players, and it was such an eye opener for me because I had obviously coaching experience at Motherwell, but you go to games when you can, but you know everybody. You play them 4 times a season, most or 6 of them anyway, or 5 of them. You play them 4 times a season, so you know about them. You know the players, so it is different in that respect. But it was absolutely brilliant, an unbelievable experience. You had all the best stuff, at your disposal, in terms of your performance stuff, your analysis, things like that. Your access to players and stuff like that was absolutely brilliant. But it was a bit nervy because I hadn't long. Well, I've not actually retired officially. And at that point, I'd no longer left Queen of the South. I was at the tail end, but I hadn't decided that was what I was going to do. But as soon as he asked me, I was like, right, well, I need to give everything. If I need to be in a meeting in London on a Tuesday, there's nothing that can get in the way. If I need to go and watch a game on a Saturday or a Wednesday night, whatever it was, there's nothing can get in my way. So I was prepared to do whatever it took, because it was an opportunity that really happens towards the end of your career or when you're more established. I'd only had one job as a coach at Motherwell, and that was only for a season as well. So it came out the blue, and probably earlier, definitely earlier than I'd ever hoped for. I never even thought, I want to be involved with Scotland. But as soon as that opportunity came up, straight in there, no hesitation.
Aye. What was your involvement with the national team? I mean, obviously Granty was in there as well. I'm just kind of wondering how you got a word in edgeways.
Well, it was difficult, I have to say. You know Granty well. The best time was when Granty wasn't there, was to get your point across. But no, my involvement, as I said, the manager was great. He trusted me with my opinion. He would always ask, and not always like, if you're setting up training, it wasn't that. Managers need support and they need, reassurance at times. So I was there really to provide that for him as well. But it was great. Like he would say, right, we're struggling in this position. Somebody's brought this player to my attention. What do you think? And I would say either, yeah, I like him, let's bring him in, have a look, or no, I don't think he's good enough. And he wouldn't then go, all right, I'm going to bring him in anyway. He would say, right, fine. Right, well, if you don't think he's good enough, more often than not, I would say, yeah, he's good enough. I've seen him. I trust that he's going to do well. Let's bring him in and have a look. And he would do it. It wasn't one that would. I wasn't there for, for effect, just because I'd no long finished playing and because I had a good career playing for Scotland. He valued what I was bringing on a personal level as much as my knowledge of the game, which I don't think he had any question of. But I think it was more that mixture of me as a person, the way that I was as a player, to try and take that on into the coaching side and try and be that link between the coaching staff and the players as well.
Obviously, you've dealt with the media, James, throughout your entire career. The Scotland job and being part of the coaching setup there is maybe a different type of exposure. I mean, even looking at Steve Clarke, people were shouting for him to be sacked after the Israel game, and then a month later he's a hero. With regards to kind of Alec McLeish, towards the end of his spell there, there was a lot of kind of media attention. Was that different for you, being involved in a coaching setup rather than a player? Or, do you take any notice of that, James? What was it like being part of the kind of camp at that time?
It was hard because the respect I've got for the manager, and the fact that he tried. You know, it wasn't like he wasn't trying, but from day one, he wasn't, first choice with the fans. As soon as he came in, he was under pressure. We had friendlies organised again. We had a summer tour to Peru and Mexico organised already, and we had the travel arrangements were horrendous for it. We had to split the team up and go on separate flights for different places. So from that point of view, the start was horrendous. We had to pick guys that were maybe 4th, 5th choice in their positions. Not all of them, but some guys we had to bring. Some guys that were coming off of their honeymoon or whatever to come and play. And then we had friendlies against Belgium and Portugal. Belgium, number 1 ranked country in the world. All the while trying to find the right system, the right players to play within that system. So straight away you're up against it. But and even at that point, there was never any leeway to say, "Oh, it's only friendlies. Let's see how he does in qualifiers or meaningful games." Then we played Albania at home. We beat them. But we should beat them. So it was negative again. We lost to Israel. It was a disaster. We lost a game. It was a disaster. The pressure was massive. But the Israel game. So when you're international, when your old man was involved with Betty and we had the long camps, we'd meet up on a Sunday. The game was on Saturday, and then the next game was on Wednesday. So you had a double session, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You had your chance to work on it. The Israel away game, we were playing in Israel on the Thursday, and it was a 5-hour flight and a 2-hour bus journey on the other side. We had half of the squad had played on a Sunday with our clubs, and we were meeting up on the Sunday night. But as is now, players don't train. Most players don't train 2 days after a game. So our preparation is, we've got a game Sunday and we've got a game Thursday. We need to travel in between. So the preparation was poor. And if the press were pro Alec McLeish and sympathetic, they could have, it's not an excuse to say that's why we lost, but this is a disgrace. How can we lose to Israel? They're so bad. They're not even a good team. Without looking at the other things, that you're trying to create the best environment, you try to have the best preparation. We couldn't have the best preparation because for those reasons. So we lost that game, and then and all the while we're trying to find players to play in the system, and players that are good enough to play. The next 2 games we played again, it was Israel, Albania away and Israel at home. We beat Albania 4-0 away, and we beat Israel 3-2 at home to win the Nations League group, which is then in turn led to having the playoff against Israel and Serbia for the qualification. But the difference with that is we had a striker. We had Stephen Fletcher up front who could lead the line. He could hold the ball up. He could bring others into play, and he could get us up the pitch. So we only had that for those 2 games, really. Stephen Fletcher then didn't play. The next game we played was Kazakhstan away, and the progress that we'd made at that point, we'd beaten Albania and Israel at home, really good team performances. And then the next time we go and play in Kazakhstan, the preparation was spot on for that, and it didn't work out. But there was 6 players missing from the last meetup. So you're having to start again with poor time to prepare because of the travel and stuff, and trying to get your ideas across. So we never really got a time where it was a sustained period to build, a system and integrate players into that system. It was always 5 or 6 changes every game. And the only time we had consistency was the 2 games, the game against Albania and Israel. But I think that when it came towards the end, some of the press were an absolute disgrace towards Art McLeish. It was terrible. Some of the pundits, their language was horrendous. Some guys that have never coached, they don't understand how hard it is to organise a training session, to try and pick a team based on what you're looking at, for then somebody to come and say, see that team you've picked, you need to take 5 players away for that and then go and see how you do. So some of the press was horrendous, and I was there for it because it affected Alec. It really did. A nicer guy, it'd be very hard to find. Listen, you would have seen it with your dad, growing up. If the press get turned on you, then they've made their mind up. It's so hard to change their minds on it. And for Alec, it was absolutely horrendous. But you're trying to do a job. You're trying to do your best for your country. I've spoken about this. It's your country. You go above and beyond. It's your country. There's no bitterness. All you want success. There's very little. Well, there might be a bit more, but it's not the same politics in terms of within a club and people wanting for you to fail. And there's the one goal is to qualify to do well for your country. So the outside pressure came from the media because the way it was handled, the way the appointment was handled, and the fact that they chased Michael O'Neill for however long and he rejected it, and it looked like they had no plan B, and Art McLeish was like plan C or D, and from that point, I said this to him when we left. I says, look, you were onto a loser from the start. You were up against it. People wanted you to fail, and that is a hard environment to work under. When people want you to fail, it is so hard to concentrate on what's in front of you, but you need to try and block out the noise and try and focus on what's at hand. But it just seemed to be that it wasn't to be. And listen, I'm not bitter, absolutely not at all, because ultimately we're going to a major finals, and that's all we wanted. We only want Scotland to do well, and that's what we've done. So there is absolutely no bitterness. I'm just delighted that we're actually going to go and support Scotland at a major tournament.
And James, just the last one for this segment. You spoke about being on the pro licence and that kind of path of management or coaching. It's interesting because the exposure that you've had as a player, Davy Moyes, obviously a guy that's on the pitch every day, running everything, his staff, Andy Watson, Jimmy Lumsden. Then you've got Alex McLeish with Granty. What do you see yourself as, James? Is it management? Do you see yourself more as an assistant manager, being in beside somebody? What do you think the future holds for what you want to achieve?
I think ultimately I want to be a manager. I want to be the guy in charge. I've been assistant to Mark McGee, again, mention him again, fantastic. Art McLeish, fantastic for me, for developing me and giving me confidence to go and, and funnily enough, when I was finishing playing, I never thought I definitely want to be a coach, I definitely want to manage. I just thought I'll see how I feel. But looking back, Mark McGee was always offering advice, always talking about not coaching advice, not do this and do that, and these are the type of drills you need to do, but management, leadership advice. And Alec was the same, always about leadership. So I think that they saw that was the route that I should go down before I found that out for myself. But definitely head coach, unless it was a guy that or a project or a person that I respected, more so the person. If it was a person that I wanted to work for, then I would go in as an assistant, and I'd be the best assistant I could be, loyal and make sure that I'm there to support. But ultimately, I want to be a manager or a head coach, whatever the job description is. I want to be my own guy, and I've got good ideas. I think I can bring a bit of, the tinge of the old school. I think that, for me, it's all about the basics, mastering the basics, giving players the most amount of information possible, but, in the simplest of terms, but also allowing players to go and express themselves at the right time, because I don't want to see robots. I want to see guys that are going expressing themselves and having fun and showing that they love the game, because, again, that's the biggest thing for me. If you love it, then you've got a great chance of succeeding.
James, thanks very much for all your time this morning. I'll pass you back on to Eric just to do the sum up, but really enjoyed this, and thanks very much for your time, mate.
Thanks, Johnny. James, this is amazing. Can't thank you enough for this. For number one, I hope your missus is patient, because your 4 kids are probably running riot in your house now, and you're spending a couple of hours with us on a Friday night. So I'm sure she's a saint, James. For you to take that time with us, just to give us an insight to your journey. You know, I had some hairs in my neck listening to you talk about Scotland there, and that was unbelievable. You know, it was authentic, it was real, it was genuine. And, you know, we just can't thank you enough for taking that time to be with us. And, you know, I can only express our sincere thanks for all of us. I also want to say a quick thanks to Craig Brown and Survey Hall and a few others who have, you know, taken up some time in their Friday afternoon, Friday evening to join in your journey and be a part of your story. But that was fantastic, and, you know, just can't thank you enough, James.
Thanks for having me. Listen, I know I do it for my living at the minute and talk about football, but I could literally talk about it all day. I've got a real passion for it, as you can tell, and I'm really happy and honoured that you've had me on. Anytime, you know, I'll come on and bore everybody to tears about my stories. Plenty more where that came from, but thanks for having me on. I've had a great time, and I wish you all the best.
And you better get the dishes done tonight. Just to get back in the Mrs. Good books, James.
Aye, I do the cooking.
Brilliant. Thanks again, James. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Have a fantastic weekend. Have a great Christmas. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, Faddy.
Cheers, brother.